Of course, the statistics shows that there is a lot of violence against the woman is concerned, and the woman who is almost confined in the four walls of the house may not comply. So she really needs a protection. So thereby there is a rationale behind the law to protect the interest of a particular class by itself. That's the reason why I said here the field of legislation is not the violence against a community. So far the violence against scheduled caste and scheduled tribes are concerned, it has been adequately protected by two enactments which have been referred to in the bill itself. But when you deal with the communal violence bill, the violators and the victims are themselves form a class, and there cannot be any further discrimination among us that class is concerned by dividing that into two groups for the purpose of legislation is concerned. And so far as here I am tempted to quote one of the letters written by Mahatma Gandhi. Of course, there is a very fine article which has been published in one of the leading daily newspaper under the heading or the caption Conversations from the Past. Why I am reading this is, what was the conception so far as Mahatma Gandhi is concerned with regard to the religion? Of course, before I quote the passage which I made a reference to the letter, I quote the first letter. In that context, the second letter has been written by Mahatma Gandhi. There is a letter written by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, dated October 20, 1920, to Gandhi. Says, I enclose the second installment of impressions of communal rights in Allahabad in course of Ram Leela procession. The Kunjaras, that is vegetable sellers, are Muslims and are supposed to be a rough lot. He then continues in an impartial vein. I am unable to say who began the attack, but I doubt if the Kunjaras are solely to blame. But it gives an enough indication that both the groups are to be blamed whenever there is a communal violence. There is a clash between the two groups or the two sections of the society belonging to different religions. Then in that context, of course, Mahatma Gandhi wrote to Nehru on May 2nd, 1933, the Harijan movement is too big for mere intellectual effort. There is nothing so bad in all the world. Gandhi continues, my life would be a burden to me if Hinduism failed me. I repeat, my life would be a burden to me if Hinduism failed me. I love Christianity, Islam and many other faiths through Hinduism. Take it away from me and nothing remains for me. But then I cannot tolerate it with untouchability, the high and low belief. Fortunately, Hinduism contains a sovereign remedy for the evil. I have applied the remedy. He says that there is a remedy for all the evils in Hinduism. This is exactly the letter written by Mahatma Gandhi to Nehru. And this was the line of thinking of the father of the nation is concerned. I may also make some references here and there. I will take about another 5 or 10 minutes before I terminate, because I thought that this is a subject of very, very importance and should be carried to the masses. Here the question is, as I have rightly instigated the organizers to have set the motion, is by saying whether communal bill is necessary. Of course, the author of this article says, but is communal violence bill necessary? Yes and no. Yes, there is need for a very strong bill to prevent riots. And of course, he refers to some instances like Orissa, Gujarat, or Delhi. Everyone may agree that yes, a bill is required, an act is required to condemn communal violence. But we don't accept that a bill should be brought about in such a fashion which would make discrimination between the two groups. And the author further says, but bill in the present form is far from desirable. It puts majority community as aggressor and sees minority as victims always. This is exactly what I have stated. What we need is having zero tolerance policy against any form of communalism. Words don't matter, whether one is trying to use the community or his or her religion or Hindutva or secularism as words, but if in fact is division of society and possibility of hostileness between two communities, it must be dealt with. What we need is religion separated from governance in letter and spirit. Bill must not have distinction of minority or majority, but must see any party or person if threat between communities as threat and must be booked. Lastly, he says, why divide Indians into Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians and Dalits? Why not have strongest possible law to make sure Indians are protected rather than protecting communities? In the end, lives of the Indians are lost in riots. And there are several articles, of course, I have been able to collect it, but for short of time, I may not refer to all those articles. But what I find, the glaring flaw in the bill, that it is no reasonable nexus to the object sought to be achieved by the bill. As I have already stated, communal violence is always a result of friction between the two communities. That means the violators and victims of communal violence form one class as such. Then why choose one group for special treatment and exclude the other from the like treatment? All the violators and victims of communal violence who form one class should be treated alike. Whenever there is a communal disturbances, as you are all well aware, and our experience also shows that there will be two versions of the same incident. Even under the common law, when there is a case and a counter case, that is a version and a counter version of the incident, the practice is that they will be tried by the same judge to arrive at the truth in order to find out as to who is the perpetrator of the crime and who is the victim of the crime. I have no ill will or prejudice upon any community. I have sincere sympathy towards the victims of criminal violence. I condemn all those who indulge in criminal violence and divide the country in the name of community. But I find that the bill in its present form may not be acceptable either by the public at large or by any jurist or academician. It is not well balanced. It may give an impression that the bill is well intentioned only in its preamble. If one were to read the bill carefully, it will give an impression to one section of the society that it is biased. The first clause with regard to the definition of group, which will give an impression that the perpetrator of violence is only a majority community. So also the definition of the victim. There is no need for such bill. I would rather go to the extent of saying that there is absolutely no need for such bill, and the existing laws, if they are implemented properly, will stand the test of time, will take care of the interest of every Indian who is loyal and faithful to the great nation. The bill aims to form a new level of redundant and wasteful bureaucracy. Because there is a police over the police. So it aims at forming a new level of redundant and wasteful bureaucracy which will take away certain powers relating to law and order from the state itself. That is why it has been stated by some of the Chief Minister that it will affect the federal structure of the country itself. The composition or creation of national authority for communal harmony, etc., will encroach upon the state powers, besides being an additional burden to the state exchequer. Further, there is an apprehension that it will affect the secular fabric of this great nation. Why to continue the legacy of the Britishers of divide and rule policy? And neither the laws should appear to be vindictive. Then we have got retributive justice is not wholesome or healthy sign. I should say that so far the proposed bill is concerned, the retributive justice is not a healthy sign to the growth of the nation. Justice should be restorative, which gives every Indian a chance to live together in harmony. There are enough laws, but what is required is effective implementation of laws and to amend the laws wherever it is necessary. Let us not rewrite the Constitution, but amend it wherever it is necessary. It is the duty of all Indians to be good and responsible citizens, and it shall be the duty of every Indian to pressurize the government of the day to make good laws which will make responsible citizens. I should rather consider that it is the duty of every citizen to pressurize the government. Just like so far the corruption is concerned, the task has been taken by Anna Hazare, though of course a lot of comments have been made that a person on the street cannot make the law. But definitely a person on the street can pressurize the government to make good laws, to make good citizens. There should be an intellectual and healthy debate of the bill, and the informed public will be the judge